Industrial Revolution. So, we said Enlightenment brought about two major political revolutions, the American Revolution and the French Revolution. With these two revolutions, all the ideas of social contractarianism, of the social contracts, the ideas of liberalism, the ideas of democracy became not anymore ideas, but political institutions. Political institutions who make these theories a reality, historical reality. So these are the two political revolutions. Then we have a third revolution, which is not a political revolution. It's a technological revolution, it's a social revolution. It's a social revolution, which is the Industrial Revolution. So what we said is that Enlightenment has political principles. These political principles are opposition to absolute monarchy, separation of the powers of the state, individual rights based on equal rights for everybody, political rights, civil rights. These are the political principles of Enlightenment. But we saw that Enlightenment was also, the main principle of Enlightenment is reason. Reason, that we have to understand all reality through reason, and we have to understand reality through reason. We have to use reason to think how reality can change for the progress, for the better. And reason says a method. The method is the scientific method. So Enlightenment was very much also about science, and science has concrete application. Concrete application of science is technology. So Enlightenment was also about, development of technology, and all the things that were also the new scientific discoveries were translated into technological innovations, and this technological innovation brought about what we call the Industrial Revolution. What we are interested in for the Industrial Revolution is that the Industrial Revolution made capitalism a new reality, a new powerful force transforming society. So capitalism is a new thing that we bring into the table of the course of history of political thought. A new thing. We studied liberalism, we studied democracy, we studied the state, we studied the individual rights, we studied constitutions, republicanism, and all these nice political concepts. But right now we enter the 19th century. The 19th century is the century of the Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution is what made capitalism a reality, and this brings about a shift from all these political concepts that we had, state rights, sovereignty, to the concept of society. This is what really we are focusing for in these classes. The new concept of society. Yeah, it's nice to design legal system, it's nice to design political system, but we have things that happen in society. And so we have a new political doctrine that say, yeah, we don't only have to look at the legal rights, at the political principles of sovereignty and of the state. We also have to look at what happened in society. Socialism is the political doctrine that looks at society. And what really brought about what we nowadays call society, which we didn't existed before, was the Industrial Revolution. With the Industrial Revolution, you see the emergence of this new concept of society. Because before there was no society, before there were communities. People were living in communities, there were families, there were communities, there were direct relationships, but society is a new thing that we have with the Industrial Revolution, because the Industrial Revolution brings this transformation from agricultural societies to industrial society, brings about this immigration in the cities in which people lived as individuals in the city. And the example of all these individuals is called society. It's not anymore a community. Community is a set of individuals that they know each other, they have direct relationship to each other. So some modern societies, industrial societies, are just a set of individuals which doesn't have personal relationship among them. So let's get back to the Industrial Revolution. What happened to the Industrial Revolution? And we have a beautiful presentation, hopefully beautiful, by Kavinga Karunanayaka, right? Karunanayaka. Okay, very long family name. The floor is yours.
So, you guys know me as Alex. So, it was really hard for me to join Industrial Revolution and political thought because I don't actually know in deep about the political thought in the Industrial Revolution. So I took Industrial Revolution and I took the political thought, the people who brought ideas for the Industrial Revolution to happen Industrial Revolution. And I made a small presentation. It's short, but I'll try to keep it short. Okay. So, introduction. Industrial Revolution started in the 18th century, 1700s, 1760, forward from UK, from Britain, and it influenced whole Europe and America. So, I'll keep it short, the innovations and stuff. So, the causes of Industrial Revolution, technological innovations like the spinning jenny and steam power, steam engine by James Watt in 1769, used in factories for transportation. So, as you can see in the first image, it's the spinning jenny and the power loom, which on top you can see there's this thing which turns it, because everyone has seen this picture, but I don't think anyone recognizes that thing which turns it, because that's the water power. So with that power, it's the start of the industrial, automating everything. And the third picture, which is the steam engine by James Watt, 1769, and there's a fourth picture which says how it works. And also the telegraph, Samuel Morse, and there's another picture which I showed about how it changed from using horses to trains. Okay. Rise of factories, urbanization, work exploitation, and new political ideas. So, new political ideas. So, in 1516, there was this idea, a book written by Thomas More in 1516, which is called Utopia. So, Utopia is the utopianism, or it's the utopianism which it's not emerged in 1700s. It emerged in 1516, and then there were so many ideas about the utopianism, which is a perfect world to live in. Like, it's actually, everyone says it's a belief and, interest in a perfect world. But, people are flawed creatures, so it's not easy to make a perfect world. So that's why it's imaginary. So in response, there were negative effects like poverty, inequality, poor working conditions. So these thinkers, the key thinkers, were Henry de Saint-Simon, Charles Fourier, and Robert Owen. They had different concepts about socialism. They didn't say it's utopianism because for them it was socialism. They tried to make it work, but they didn't have a better plan. So Henry de Saint-Simon was born in 1760 till he lived until 1825, which is the era of French Revolution. So his view was the workers versus idlers. So who are these idlers and who are workers? Workers are the people who work. Not only the lower class workers, it was the people who even gave a chance for people to work, and the factory owners and everyone else. But who are idlers then? So idlers are the people who rent out and stay sitting and get the money. So those people are idlers. So Henry de Saint-Simon saw this as workers versus idlers. And also in 1816 he says that politics is the science of production. So my main focus should be in industrial revolution, which how it helps to industrial revolution. So these people, these ideas made industrial revolution work. So with production, factories and stuff. Charles Fourier proposed a self-sufficient communities where work was based on passion. He was born in 1772 and lived until 1837. And then comes Robert Owen, which is like, I personally like the concept he used because he saw a fold in the industry in that era. So this guy was born in 1771 and he's a factory owner. So what he did was there was these workers who were paid less and worked more hours, like 14 to 15 hours a day. So this guy was like, okay, come on, you're gonna work only like 10 and a half hours a day and I'm gonna pay you well. So he wanted to make the workers, the laborers, good members. He saw them as human beings. Like it says human beings because in that era, the people who were working was like, child labor and stuff. They didn't care. They just took them for work for less money. And this guy tried to give them back the profits he made in the industry, and he even spoke to his partners and communist members, but they didn't have any interest of giving back the profits to the laborers. So he was gone from the picture. But then he earned a lot of money because of the value increment in his profits of the factories, and in the end it's opposed to Marx because Marx used all his money and he lost all his money. This guy, while doing this, he earned money. But when it comes to so these didn't work because lack of clear plans for large scale implementations. So this was about 10 years, 20 years it will work, but then after that you don't know how it will go. And then comes scientific socialism, which is Marxism. This is opposed to utopian socialism. Because to Marx, socialism was a natural progression of history. So he looked at history. He was a revolutionist when he was in the mid-30s, but then he saw that the history, we should learn from the history and we should predict the future. So what he did was, so that's why it's opposed to the utopian socialism, because it's not a perfect world, but it will work. This socialism will work. So the key work of Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels was Communist Manifesto in 1849-48, Revolutionary Gold Direction. And industrial capitalism leads to class struggles between bourgeois and the proletariat, the working class, the factory owners, capitalists, and the working class. And he also said the workers must unite through capitalism and establish socialism. struggles led to trade unions, labor movements, and socialist revolutions. So this struggle between the capitalists, the factory owners, and the working class led to the implementation of laws, the labor laws, laborers getting together with trade unions and implementing, talking to the factory owners and, discussing what we need and, it was progression. Criticisms are some Marxist-inspired governments became authoritarian. Capitalism, driving force of industrialization. So, in Adam Smith, The Wealth of Nation, this inspired the free markets and private property. So, have you heard of something called laissez-faire? So, laissez-faire is laissez-faire economics. So it's economic type of economy where the government has less involvement in it. So mainly the private owners control it. For example, in Sri Lanka, which is my country, it's not the government who owns the maximum percentage of the ground. It's the private sector who controls the economy. So anyone who becomes president has to cooperate with the private owners. So something like that. So this is capitalism. Okay. And also I've made a small diagram of how the first stage using machines and cars, and then how it developed through the modern technologies. So the questions of equality. Industrialization widened the gap between rich and poor. Utopian socialists wanted voluntary cooperation for equality. That didn't work. Marxists believed only revolution could create true equality. Capitalists argued inequality was natural and competition led to progression. So, in conclusion, utopian socialism inspired welfare policies and cooperative businesses. Marxism shaped modern socialism and communist movement, but capitalism remains dominant, has evolved, like example, social democracy and labor rights. So I'll try to keep it short. Thank you very much.
So are you socialist or not? Are you socialist, liberal, or what?
I'm a politician who chooses capitalism as a method of going forward, but indeed I love being equal.
What?
I'm a politician who.
You're a politician?
Who loves.
You work in politics?
No, I'm a politician.
Yeah, politically you are. Yeah.
I know. I'm kind of cunning person who uses capitalism to gain my stuff, like what I want, and then, but indeed, I just want to be socialist, live peacefully.
Yeah. But so do you have in Sri Lanka, you have socialist movements?
It's only in the news. Like, people think we have socialism because in the last election we chose a party, the Socialist Party.
Yeah.
And this guy came, and everyone in the world thinks it's socialism, but it's
not.
It's kind of mafia which is going right now.
So you're from Colombo, right? Yeah. But so what about Tamil Tigers? Are they socialist or not?
I don't think they're socialist, but
They're just nationalists.
Yeah, I think they're just nationalists, but I'm not opposed to them because the people who are right now controlling the country did marketing where like, so it's not actually good to say, but so Colombo was bombed, but it was not the Tigers. It was this party, this mafia people, like the family, who did it and told that they did it. So the whole people, like the whole society, thought that the Tigers did it, and everyone was opposed to them. So it was easy to take them off. But personally, I don't think like they're just nationalists. Like they think about their, because Tamils wanted to be like the major population in the country, but it was not allowed.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much. So you have a lot of fun in this class. Why they clap this to you so much? Lucky guys. So, okay, so thanks for the presentation. So what we have? What are we studying now? We're studying this issue of what happened with the Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution is about bringing capitalism as a dominant new social model. So the Industrial Revolution, as we see, we have new scientific ideas that became technological innovations. So we have seen that, for example, in France, we had aristocracy with their own castles. They were good at war. They have the clergy with the traditional values and so on. But in the city, you started to have a new class, which was called the bourgeoisie, which was committed to trade, commerce, banking, and making money. Yeah. Why? Why? The Industrial Revolution haven't yet arrived in Messina, as you can see, because, okay, now it works. So we have seen the bourgeoisie was making trade and so on. There was this new class. They were making a lot of money. So they claimed new rights, but they were also progressing, production. They started to have manufacturers and so on. So they produced goods and they trade goods. Goods, not gods. Goods, they trade, they trade goods and they started to transform all the objects we produce in commodity. Commodity means that one thing doesn't have its value in itself, but also has a value of exchange. We can exchange it to make more profit, more money. This is capitalism, as we will see with the presentation of New. Right?
Right now?
No, wait. So, do we have your things here? Is your presentation, is it on the computer? Yeah. Thank you. So capitalism. Right now we're going to understand better what is capitalism. But right now, let's see, Industrial Revolution. So bourgeoisie, they wanted to produce goods, not to use them, but to exchange them to make more money. Accumulation, capitalist accumulation. How they produce money? They produce money by hiring people who are doing this work, moving this, or maybe sometimes animals. When it was too heavy, you take a horse, you take a cow, and you make this cow using the energy. So the Industrial Revolution was we invented machines that produced energies through steam. Steam machines to be put into the factories to produce goods. Coal machines to be put on this new great thing, which is the train, to transport commodities. So you can trade commodities in all the nation. Also, beyond the borders of the nation, because you put steam engines on boats, and so the boats doesn't have to use wind, but they use things. So new ways of producing things through machines in manufacturing, new way of transportations through trains and through both, which went with engines. So new innovation and also new ways of communicating, because they started to develop telegraph. So this opened the possibility to have much big markets. We call them markets because at the beginning it was just the market in the city, the market somewhere, and they start to become global national markets, global markets. So through colonization and so on. So through these markets, capitalism becomes a new reality. So we move from an agricultural society based on the fact that you mostly produce agricultural goods for subsistence, you produce the things that you eat, to an urban society, industrial society. Okay, so the main transformation with the Industrial Revolution is that we move from a mostly agricultural society, people living in the countryside, huge migration to manufacturing city, because people need to go to work in the factories in order to work. So we have this contradiction as we saw, because the Industrial Revolution brought about a huge economic growth, much more wealth in society, but also new forms of poverty, because the people who were migrating from agricultural economy to the city didn't have any kind of social security structure. You know, in the countryside they could just produce the things that they eat and so on. In the city you have to pay a rent, you have to find a way to live, and when the economic crisis comes, you don't work anymore. These people were called proletariat because the only patrimony they had was their prole, means their kid, their children, nothing else. The only things they had was their own labor forces, which were they were selling their own labor to capitalists in factories, and they were paying the less. Obviously capitalism works on the idea that you pay the less possible for the machines, for the workers, in order to maximize profit, reinvest this profit, produce more commodities, expand the profit, and grow. So capitalists always want to grow and have more profits. So they didn't pay workers. So at the same time, we have the growth of a new form of new huge wealth, and the growth of new forms of poverty for proletarians, working class, and so on. So this is the contradiction of the Industrial Revolution. New wealth, huge wealth, but also a new class of people working in factories who had really very bad forms of poverty. So, why?
The cable has broken.
Why? Why? Now?
Almost.
Almost. Yay! Great. So yeah, we start to have, the growth of these industrial cities. Fuck off, this morning nothing works. Sabrina!
Sorry.
You're just 15 minutes late. How is it even possible? Yeah? Sabina. Yeah. Great. We're getting better. 45 minutes only. It's tomorrow. Today. Okay. So we have these nice cities. These cities, they start to be they become industrial cities with these factories. And in these industrial cities, you have these workers who work at the machine. So, also, living conditions in these cities, in these industrial cities, were very bad. So you have all these migrant workers from the countryside that lived in desperate, poor condition, property-less poor, working poor, paupers, proletarians. Proletarians means that you don't have private property, you only have your kids, you don't have any private property of yourself. So, migrant workers, very bad healthy condition in the industrial cities, and so we have, this new ideology. This new ideology that is socialism. What does it say, socialism? What is the ideology of socialism? Socialism says, we have modernity. In modernity, we invented the social contract, democracy, power to the people. We want to say all men are born equal, like is written in the American Constitution, in the French Constitution, you find all men are equal. They have equal rights. They are citizens who are equal in front of the law, who have equal political rights. They can vote and so on. Socialists say, yes, beautiful principle, but look at the reality. Reality is society, and in society you have huge inequalities. Based on what? Based on private properties. So you say, yeah, you say all these beautiful Enlightenment ideas, the French Revolution, who says, okay, political rights for everybody, civil rights for everybody, but if you have political rights and you can vote, but you don't have, not even the time to get informed, if you don't get even to education and you're not able to read a newspaper or to read the news, what is it for these political rights? You will never get elected if you're completely illiterate. Yeah, beautiful, we're equal in front of the law, but if you don't even have, you're illiterate, you don't have the money to pay a lawyer to defend you in front of the law, all these rights do not exist. Political rights are not real, and civil rights are not real. So we have to introduce a new kind of citizenship rights, which are called social rights. Socialism is about social rights. It's about giving people a new kind of rights that ensure that you can really exercise political rights and civil rights. So, let's say again what are the main social citizenship rights. Education. Education means you need to become a citizen, you need to have the basis that makes you understand how can you exercise your right. Right to education. Healthcare. And workers' rights, labor rights. So yeah, healthcare, it's, you say in general, Locke says the natural right to life. Natural right to life if you cannot get cured and you're gonna die for a fucking flu or for a very basic bacteria, this right to life does not exist. Human right does not exist. You have to grant social right to health care, to access, universal access to health care. Labor rights, meaning that if you have beautiful rights but you have to work 100 hours per week, 15 hours per day, you have not night shift, you cannot even rest on Sundays, this is not right. So they started to introduce new labor rights. For whom? They started with children, because the problem is that children did not have the right to education, but also they had to go to work since 6 years, 7 years to support the family, because the family did not have the means, so the father had to send his child to work. So they started to say, okay, children have labor rights. They cannot work more than 8 hours per day. They cannot work seven days per week. And so they started to say, okay, we have these rights. And then they started to say they cannot work out until 12 years old. And so we give them the right to education. Then they say also for women. Women body is not done for working so much. So they say maximum 10 hours per day, one weekly rest, and then for all the workers. And the workers' movement was born. So, utopian socialists, Owen, Saint-Simon, Fourier, as Alex said, they started to say, yeah, this industrial society, we have to rethink, normative theories, idealism. We have to think how to make it better, we have to think how to fix this problem, we have to design a perfect socialist society in which all these problems were fixed. But one guy came and said, yeah, it's not that easy. You can only do it if you organize the working class and do a revolution, because the bourgeoisie, because the capitalists will never accept to fix this problem as you want to fix it. So we have to set up a revolution. So yesterday we saw the first half of the life of this guy. So, the first half. So what do we have to remind in the first half? So its first half is, as we say, it was not a boring academic, Karl Marx. He was one of the most intelligent person of his centuries, but he didn't want to become a professor. He wanted to make the revolution. So he fucked up all his money and all his wife's money to print journals to teach the workers that they have to make a revolution. He had to flew Germany because he was not free to write whatever he wanted. He went to Paris. He went to Paris to start a journal in Paris. And in Paris, he made one of the other most, beside his wife, the most important meeting of his life, Friedrich Engels. Friedrich Engels, why? Because Marx was thinking, yeah, we have to stop to think about the state and we have to understand society. We have to put the center of political theory on society and not anymore on the state. We have to understand that the society is the structure and the state is the superstructure that resulting from the relationship from this and this. But he met Engels. Engels was, the son of a big manufacturer with a huge factory in Manchester, and so he could see the reality of the worker. So Engels thought Marx, look Marx, we have to focus on this thing. We have to focus on the workers. The workers are the future. The working class is the future. And they became best friends. They became best friends, and also they wrote this very, very, very important book that we analyzed yesterday, that yesterday Comrade Bach explained to us, which is the Communist Manifesto. So let's see again something about the Communist Manifesto with Marx and Engels. Marx and Engels, they stay in Paris for a while, 4 or 5 years. Then in 1848, a kind of revolution came up because people wanted universal suffrage. And so they say, we have to explain these people who are making a revolution about the universal suffrage, that they have to make a revolution not for political rights, but for social rights. For social rights, and to overcome capitalist society into a new system. So they went there and they said, okay, let's write this book to explain what we have to do.
Karl, was bedeutet das? Schrecklich. Schrecklich. Nein, nein. Ein Gespenst. Geht